The gold market is still around the 4,000 US dollar mark, and everybody is waiting for the, let's say, second half of the year bull run of the gold price, and also the exploration companies, because they didn't really have benefited from what we have seen in this bull market so far. And today with me is Robert Wrixon. He is the CEO of a company called Nordic Resources, and as the name already indicates, he's exploring for gold in the Nordic countries in Finland. First of all, Rob, thanks for your time and being with us. You have gotten out some very interesting drill results, and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jan, and thanks for the introduction. Thanks for having me back on. Yes, Nordic Resources recently put out its final set of results from the drill program that we conducted in the first half of this year. You may remember, or you may recall that we put out some results about a month ago from the northern end of Kopsa. And very simply, we are drilling out around Kopsa and its existing resource, 815,000 ounces of gold. We're drilling out in every direction, primarily to the north and to the south. At the north, what we found is a brand new high-grade zone where we hit 8 meters at 20 grams per ton. You may have seen we've had a follow-up announcement after that where we showed that actually, if that continues at depth, and it looks like, from the electromagnetic survey that we've done, there is potential that happens. There could be underground potential at Kopsa, but fundamentally, Kopsa is a near surface deposit that should be amenable to open pit mining. So we're really focusing on holes from 0 to 250 meters below surface. And what we just put out in the last 3 holes was we decided we're running out of time. We're going to be drilling again the second half of this year, but we had time for 3 more holes. So we stepped back as far as we could to the south because we know very little about what's happening in that host rock that hosts all the gold that far out. And we drilled back in, and we were just delighted to see that, not only do all the mineralized zones that we were seeing previously closer to the center of the deposit are not only continuing, the grade is being maintained at a good level at or around a gram per ton, maybe slightly below. But not only that, the mineralized zones we're seeing getting quite a bit wider in most areas. So what that means is that this southern end of the deposit, the mineralization doesn't stop. It's continuing. So now what we see is a very high percentage, in fact, of that host intrusion, the rock that actually hosts the gold, is actually mineralized to quite a significant degree. And what all this means when we put it together is that when we come out with our next resource update for Kopsa, just focusing on that top 200 meters or so, which could be amenable to an open pit, we should be looking at, what's hopefully a material change in the size of Kopsa. So, overall, really exciting results.
Perfect. And I think this is what you want to see as a gold exploration company, right? Doing step out drilling, finding more gold, and in the end, expanding the resource. So give us a little bit of an idea on the time frame on that as well. We have still, I think, a little bit more drilling to do. And also you want to get the resource update out. Is it all going to happen this year?
Yes, it should all happen this year. In fact, the results have been so positive that, we are drilling again, actually next week. We're back in again with the drill rig. And in fact, that's going to be joined by a second drill rig later in the year. So we will have 2 rigs going for most of the second half of this year, just because there's so much to do, not only at Kopsa, but some of our other deposits, projects nearby as well. But we will be focusing on Kopsa. We still have some step out drilling to do. There are quite a few areas in that host intrusion where we need to drill, and we think there could be expansion there. But I think what you'll notice is a change in the focus. We will be doing a bit more infill drilling, really bedding down exactly where the mineralized zones are, even within the areas we kind of know where there's mineralization, because we're going to, at some point, and people will see this from the resource update that we put out, which hopefully around the end of September, which will show that, it's clearly, at that point, we should see that it's clearly big enough to be a mine. And at that point, you need to do a little bit closer space drilling. It's not going to add particularly that many ounces, but what it does is it tightens up the mine plan. And so the shift of the company, you'll probably see it the second half of this year, will be moving towards exploration type results where we're expanding and growing the resource towards infill drilling. We've hired a studies manager. We're moving towards becoming a development company, because at some point you have to look at the size of the deposit and say, you know what, there's a lot here already. It's time to think about becoming a mine.
Yeah. And I think this is also what will bring you to a different league, right? When you have a project with more than 1 million ounces in the ground in a good jurisdiction like Finland, then obviously it puts a spotlight on you, and all the big guys will also have a look at you because that's what they need, at least 1 million ounces in the ground to make a mine. And that's what you're aiming on. So give us,
Absolutely.
yeah,
And in
yeah.
fact, to summarize, I would say the next 6 to 9 months for this company, for Nordic Resources, is going to be critical. So much good news should be coming. I wish I could fast forward to the end and get there, but it's going to be that journey is going to be quite exciting. And all the investors that come along with us, I think will have a pretty good ride as well.
No, I can tell that you are excited to see all the results and the outcome, not just as an CEO of the company, also as an investor, because you're putting your own money and your own dollars into the company, which is what shows that you are trusting the process and trusting the company and trusting yourself. And I think, especially on the junior mining side, this is what an investor wants to see, a CEO who is in the same boat like any other investor as well.
Absolutely.
But Rob, let's have a quick look at the overall strategy going forward. You have the Kopsa project and you want to grow it above 1 million ounces. Then we have two more satellite projects. They are a little bit further apart. They are not really close by. What is going to be the strategy with those satellite projects? Is it to grow them as well? And is it possible to combine them later on, or is it too far apart? Give us a little bit of an idea. What's the game plan here?
Well, look, what I've concentrated on so far, what I've talked about so far in this interview, is just that top 200 meters or so at Kopsa.
Yeah.
What could be a good, very efficient, low cost, hopefully, open pit mine, maybe at Kopsa, right? Now, what we're seeing in the Northern Contact is, in fact, that, if that higher grade zone continues to depth, there could also be underground potential at Kopsa. We also last year put out these magnetic survey results around Kopsa in the sort of 3 kilometer radius right next to Kopsa. And there are some very, very similar magnetic anomalies that look very similar to what the main Kopsa intrusive that we've been drilling, but we haven't had a chance to drill them yet. So there could be some very good close satellite. Potentially, these anomalies could also be mineralized. So you have all of this potential at Kopsa alone. And then what you've referred to is our other two projects, the Kimula Trend and Hersikangas, both of which already have existing resources. And we think that there's a lot of exploration upside there too. And in fact, there are two prospects at Kimula that we already drilled earlier this year, both at Angisneva and Vesipira. Angisneva is already a 150,000 ounce resource. We stepped out to the north and saw that it's continuing. It seems to us that just like Kopsa, the only reason is small at the moment is because nobody's had the time or money to drill it yet. So we will be drilling at that as well, second half of this year, and also going back into Vesipira. Vesipira has no resource at the moment. It's right next to Angisneva, about 2 kilometers away. And there's no resource there, but there was some pretty good historical intersections. And now we've sort of drilled a little bit more there. And we're hopefully at the end, during the second half of this year, we're obviously expecting a resource update at Kopsa, but we could have one at Angisneva. We should have one at Angisneva as well, and Vesipira for the first time. So a lot of resource updates. And the reason why this is important is these are all connected. As you say, they're all about 40 kilometers from each other. Hersikangas I haven't mentioned, but there's over 250,000 ounces near surface there also. But our view is, the company's view is a processing solution that works for one. And whether that means we build our own plant at Kopsa or somewhere in the middle, or we use one of the two existing plants that already exists in this region for processing the gold ore, it doesn't really matter. One processing solution that works for one should work for all three of them. So all of the ounces that we drill, whether at Kopsa, satellite to Kopsa, or one of the other nearby projects, I think these will all be valuable ounces one day, because we should be able to process them in the same place. So all of this work is ongoing. And like I said, at some point you have to draw the line and say, look, we have enough for a mine here. And so let's continue on the development path. But at the same time, it's always worth continuing to drill and explore and get your resource inventory as large as possible.
No, that's very good. I mean, you have a game plan and you also have flexibility, right? If
Sure.
there's something upcoming at the other project, you can still work and grow everything together. And also, when you start the development phase, it usually gets a little bit more quiet around the company regarding the news flow, but it helps you also to keep the news flow alive with other projects still in the exploration phase.
Yeah,
That's very good.
absolutely. Absolutely. While we're waiting for the development timelines can be longer,
Yeah.
but we won't be stopping exploring because we've got three great projects, one of which we haven't even had time to drill yet. And there's so much more exploration upside there. We'll get in there as well, and we'll continue to grow them, whether it's at Kopsa, Hersikangas, or at the Kimula Trend project area, where there's a number of prospects we also haven't tested alongside Angisneva and Vesipira. And what that means is that we can always keep the market excited with exploration results and growth, even while we're kind of doing the potentially boring things like getting something into production, right? It's not quite as exciting, but very, very important. So all of this is going to be happening. And that's why I say the next 6, 9 months really important. But even after that, there'll be plenty of eyes on us still as we continue to expand. And as you said, the bigger your resource inventory gets, the more interesting you get for everybody.
Perfect. Rob, thank you very much for the quick update on the latest drilling results and also on the bigger strategy. I'm looking forward to see the next set of drilling results quite soon, and the best of luck with the exploration work.
Thanks very much, Jan.
Perfect. Thank you.